No one expected this, not Korean fans, not industry insiders, not even longtime Otten. But this week, something undeniable happened. SB19 didn't just appear on Music Bank voting charts, they surged, overtaking local acts, shaking comment sections, and forcing Korean fans to ask one question: who are these guys, and why are they winning? Screenshots spread fast. Fanbases went into overdrive. And suddenly, a Filipino group wasn't just participating in K-pop spaces, they were disrupting them. This isn't hype. This is data. And what's unfolding right now could change how Asia sees pop power forever. If you're still here, this matters to you. So like the video, subscribe, and let this reach the people who still think SB19's presence in Korea is accidental. It's not. This Music Bank update wasn't just another fan celebration, it landed differently because it hit at the core of how Korean music success is measured. Music Bank isn't a popularity poll. It's a weighted system that combines digital performance, broadcast exposure, physical sales, and global fan voting. That last part matters, but only when it shows sustained, organized momentum. Random international hype doesn't move these numbers. Coordination does. Here's the key distinction many miss: nomination means visibility, ranking means competitiveness, but fan-driven momentum means pressure. And SB19 didn't creep up the board, they jumped. That jump signals something far more serious than casual overseas support. It suggests a fandom capable of mobilizing at K-pop scale, across time zones, platforms, and deadlines. What makes this moment especially striking is the timing. SB19 didn't ride a Korean viral trend, a drama OST, or a sudden media push. This surge came without traditional Korean promotional backing. No weeks of local TV appearances. No heavy domestic marketing. Just fans and data. That's why industry watchers raised eyebrows. Because this wasn't supposed to happen now. Or this fast. Which leads to the question no one can dodge anymore: is this a one-week anomaly, or the first visible crack in Korea's closed pop hierarchy? Every viral moment has a trigger, and this one came in the form of a single screenshot. A Music Bank voting update showing SB19 climbing higher than expected, positioned among familiar Korean names. No dramatic headline, no press release, just raw placement, and that's why it exploded. Within minutes, the image was everywhere. X timelines flooded. TikTok creators stitched reactions. Fan accounts circled rankings in red, adding timestamps like evidence in a case file. Then it crossed borders, landing in Korean online communities where reactions shifted in real time. First came curiosity: who is SB19? Then disbelief: how are they here? And finally debate: is this real momentum or coordinated international noise? That progression matters. Because Korean fandom culture is skeptical by design. Visual proof carries more weight than translated articles or hype threads. A ranking screenshot doesn't argue, it shows. And once people see it, they can't unsee it. Longtime fans quietly noted the parallel, not claiming equivalence, but recognizing a pattern. Early BTS chart moments sparked similar confusion before clarity set in. Not the same scale. Not the same era. But the same question beginning to surface: are we witnessing something forming, before it's officially acknowledged? To understand why SB19's Music Bank rise is raising eyebrows, you have to understand one uncomfortable truth: Korean music shows are not built for outsiders. Even established international artists struggle to gain traction without Korean language releases, domestic labels, or heavy broadcast relationships. The system favors familiarity, loyalty, and long-term presence, not surprise entrance. Language alone is a wall. Lyrics, interviews, variety appearances, these shape fan attachment in Korea. Then there's fandom culture, which is deeply rooted in local communities, offline events, and broadcast history. Add to that broadcast loyalty, where networks tend to prioritize artists tied to their ecosystem, and you see why most non-Korean acts never get close to meaningful rankings. This is where Southeast Asian artists usually disappear from the conversation. Not because of talent, but because access is limited. Visibility is controlled. Momentum rarely crosses the final barrier into serious contention.
And yet, SB19 did. They didn't break in through promotion. They didn't wait for permission. They didn't localize themselves into safety. They pushed through the international ceiling using the only lever strong enough to move the system: numbers. Coordinated. Measurable. Impossible to dismiss. That's why this moment matters. Because this isn't a marketing experiment or a one-off collaboration. This is fan force colliding with a closed system and leaving a visible mark. What turned this from a surprise into a statement was not luck, it was Aten discipline. While casual fans see excitement, industry watchers see structure. Voting didn't happen randomly. It happened in waves, across time zones, with clockwork precision. When Korea slapped, Southeast Asia picked up the shift. When deadlines approached, reminders surged. No gaps. No chaos. This is the difference between loud fandoms and effective ones. Aten doesn't just trend, they execute. Fanbases shared trackers, real-time vote counts, and daily goals. Missed votes were flagged. New fans were on board with guides, not slogans. Emotion was present, but it was channeled into systems. That's why comparisons started quietly forming. Not publicly, not loudly, but structurally. Because this is how top-tier K-pop fandoms operate at scale. Planning. Redundancy. Accountability. And most importantly, sustainability. Korean fans noticed. Even the skeptical ones. Not through praise, but through silence. Because in K-pop culture, competence earns respect long before affection. You don't have to like the artist to acknowledge the machinery behind them. And right now, that machinery is running clean, sharp, and global. Silence in K-pop doesn't mean indifference, it often means assessment. While international fans celebrated loudly, something quieter began happening inside Korean fan spaces. Translation accounts started posting SB19 explanations. Forum threads appeared, not hyped, but analytical. Questions replaced jokes. Are they self-produced? Where did this fandom come from? Why are their numbers so organized? That shift matters. Korean audiences don't rush acceptance. They test. They observe patterns over time. Initial curiosity is followed by scrutiny of live performance ability, consistency, fan behavior, and authenticity. And SB19 passed the first test simply by staying visible without collapsing. What's especially telling is the gap between fan noise and media response. No rush of headlines. No forced narratives. But that absence isn't dismissal, it's watching. Korean media often waits until a pattern is undeniable before engaging. Premature coverage risks credibility. So they wait for proof. And proof doesn't come from ads or placements, it comes from earned attention. That's why this matters. SB19 didn't buy space. They didn't insert themselves through controversy. They appeared because fans made it impossible to ignore them. In Korea, respect is rarely given. It's accumulated. And right now, the accumulation has begun. If this were just about one Music Bank update, the story would end here. But it doesn't, because charts don't just measure popularity. They signal perception shifts. One moment like this reframes how an artist is categorized. SB19 didn't suddenly become a Korean act, but they stopped being seen as a novelty. That's the difference. They moved from foreign curiosity to regional competitor. And that transition is rare. Southeast Asia has waited a long time for this moment, not for validation, but for visibility on equal terms. Not as guests. Not as side stories. But as contenders. For decades, global pop flowed in one direction. Korea exported culture. Others consumed. This moment suggests the current is changing. Influence is no longer centralized, it's distributed. And Korea, perhaps more than any market, recognizes early signs of structural change. That's why this moment feels heavy. It sits at a pressure point where systems either adapt or resist. SB19 didn't force that pressure. They revealed it. This isn't about replacing K-pop. It's about expanding the field. And once expansion begins, it doesn't reverse quietly.
It reshapes expectations for artists, for fans, and for the industry watching closely.
History doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes, it appears on a ranking and waits to be noticed. While fan spaces move fast, the industry moves quietly and deliberately. Labels don't chase headlines. They track data. Voting patterns. Engagement velocity. Geographic spread. Repeat participation. And SB19's numbers check boxes that executives recognize instantly. Because voting power isn't just symbolic, it translates. Strong voting performance signals tour viability. It suggests fans who will buy tickets, not just stream songs. That, in turn, attracts brand interest.
Sponsors don't care about noise, they care about conversion. And organized fandoms convert.
This is where SB19 becomes more than a chart story.
They represent scalable global demand.
Not limited to one country. Not dependent on one platform.
Their support moves in coordinated waves, which is exactly what agencies look for before committing resources or reputational capital. Korean agencies, in particular, are cautious.
Collaboration isn't about talent alone, it's about risk management.
They assess longevity, fandom behavior, cultural adaptability, and whether momentum can survive beyond one cycle. One mistake can damage both sides.
So when there's silence, it's not disinterest. It's evaluation. Doors aren't opened publicly, they're tested privately. And right now, SB19 isn't knocking.
They're standing close enough that people inside can hear the crowd behind them.
Momentum is powerful, but it's also fragile.
The same force that lifts an artist quickly can exhaust a fandom just as fast.
International supporters face real limits, time zones, financial strain, emotional burnout. Sustaining pressure across weeks, not days, is where many movements falter.
Then there's the Korean market itself.
It's fast. Relentless. Attention resets every comeback cycle.
What feels explosive one week can vanish the next if it isn't reinforced with clear artistic progression.
Viral spikes are common. Staying power is rare. This is the critical difference SB19 now faces.
Visibility has been earned.
The question is whether it can be converted into presence.
That requires precision, the right music at the right moment, exposure that feels organic, and appearances that reinforce authenticity rather than chase validation. What comes next matters more than what already happened.
Because post-breakthrough phases are dangerous. Expectations rise. Scrutiny sharpens. Every move is compared to the moment that got people watching. Debuting is about entry. This phase is about survival.
And the industry will not help carry the weight.
Momentum must be managed, not chased. If SB19 gets this right, the story continues.
If not, this moment becomes a case study instead of a chapter.
Whether they asked for it or not, SB19 is carrying something bigger than a chart position. They're carrying a signal.
For years, P-pop existed in the shadows of larger systems, admired locally, underestimated regionally, and often excluded from serious global conversations. This moment disrupts that pattern. When SB19 shows up on Korean platforms with measurable force, it changes what's possible for everyone watching from the Philippines. Other Filipino acts aren't suddenly guaranteed success, but the ceiling has shifted. The excuse that it can't happen from here no longer holds.
This also challenges how Asian pop hierarchies are understood.
For a long time, Korea has functioned as the gatekeeper, deciding which acts feel legitimate beyond their borders.
But gatekeeping only works when influence flows one way. What's happening now suggests competition, not permission. Regional pop power is becoming interactive. Fans move across borders faster than industries. Momentum builds in parallel, not in line.
And once audiences recognize that quality and commitment exist outside a single center,
the map changes. SB19 didn't dismantle the system. They exposed its limits. And for P-pop, that exposure matters. Because progress doesn't start with domination, it starts with recognition that you belong in the conversation at all. So here we are. A ranking. A screenshot. A surge of votes. Korean forums asking questions. Fans across continents working in sync. On paper, it looks small. In context, it feels heavy. Because moments like this don't repeat themselves on schedule. They don't announce what they are while they're happening.
They only reveal their weight later, when people look back and realize that something shifted quietly, before the headlines caught up.
Right now, SB19 is standing in that in-between space. Not fully embraced. Not easily dismissed. Watched. Measured. Tested.
And what happens next isn't decided by algorithms alone, it's shaped by people who choose to show up again.
That's the real tension.
Whether this becomes a footnote or a movement depends on consistency, intention, and memory.
Fans don't just support moments. They preserve them.
And if you're watching this unfold right now, understand this: you're not late.
You're early.
You're seeing the first visible sign of a shift that may take years to fully register.
So don't just watch, document it. Like. Share. Subscribe. Because one day, people will ask when SB19 first made Korea look twice. And you'll know the answer.